They finished 9-8. It's a tough way to end the year, with the Chiefs bowing out against the Denver Broncos because they didn't want to face the Bengals in the playoffs. I'm not saying that's what it was, but they didn't have to play their starters, and they didn't. And Denver ended up making the playoffs, but finished 9-8. A huge, tough victory in Week 1 against the Patriots is the one that probably is haunting them from last season. This year they come in with the 14th ranked strength of schedule. And looking across the board in this division, it's 14th for the Bengals, 13th for the Browns, 9th for the Ravens, and 10th for the Steelers. So they're all kind of middle of the road towards the top.
So they play the NFC North. So obviously that's three playoff teams right there.
Right.
But they play the AFC East, and that was only one team with a winning record as well. So
that's why evens out.
That's why they're just above the middle of the pack. That's why they're not in the top 10, but yeah.
Should be some entertaining games, though. But as far as the Bengals go, all the weapons are there for another incredible season offensively. I mean, the type of season that Joe Burrow put up last year, as well as Jamar Chase going for the Triple Crown for receivers, it was incredible. And to not have them in the playoffs was really weird, considering how successful they were offensively. This year's playoff or bust. You can't keep wasting the best years of Joe Burrow. You don't know how many more you got. This season, the O-line did get a little worse with the release of Alex Kappa. Obviously, off-season contract issues with Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart have kind of put a dark cloud over this offseason a little bit. But as far as defensively, this is the most important part of their season, is if the defense can just hold up their end of the bargain, if they could even just be decent, if they can be a game or two better, this is a playoff team. And with new defensive coordinator Al Golden, he worked with young players at Notre Dame. He could really help simplify the roles of the young defenders that they have on this defense after the outgoing defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, really struggled to get the team to understand the complexity of his defensive scheme. So hopefully Al Golden can make this a little bit more simplified for these guys, and they can just get to playing football. They have 4 primetime games, including a night game on Thanksgiving in Baltimore. But a favorable home schedule in the final stretch of the season looks pretty good for them down the stretch. So what do you think about the Cincinnati Bengals coming into 2025?
Yeah, my brief take on their schedule is that they got one really important stretch and difficult stretch for weeks 13 through 15. You just mentioned one of the games, but they got 2 Baltimore games sandwiched around a at Buffalo game. So that's why this is important for the Bengals, is because of how slow they have gotten off to in these past 3 seasons. You mentioned their awful loss to at home to the Patriots last year. Well, that's kind of been the norm. They've started out 0-2 in each of the last 3 seasons. And I think 2 years before that was they got blown out by the Browns, which was just awful. For some reason, they just come out horrible. They've come out horrible in the Joe Burrow era in the first couple games of the year. It's kind of become a joke of how you don't start Burrow in fantasy week 1 because of how poor he's played. But, I mean, because of that key stretch towards the end of the year, the Baltimore games and the Buffalo, they got to take advantage of the first 2 games this year. You cannot go 0-2 at Cleveland and home against Jacksonville to open up the season. You have to. I think 1-1, but that schedule is kind of a failure because Cleveland's one of the worst teams in the league, and you get Jacksonville at home. So yeah, you got to start out hot if you're the Bengals. So while they did start off poor and they missed the playoffs, I mean, they did win their last 5 games to get themselves into position. And as bad as the defense was, they were definitely playing better in those last 5 games. If there's such thing as momentum carrying in from one season to the other, that is a good thing to see because their defense wasn't near as bad. But yeah, the Hendrickson situation as well as the Stewart situation, who I expressed earlier in a different podcast, I was not a fan of the Stewart draft pick just because I thought the Bengals needed immediate defensive help, not projects, because that's exactly what Stewart was. But now he might, who knows if he'll even play at the start of the year due to this contract issues. But yeah, I mean, they're going to need the defense to play a whole lot better because I don't think you can rely on a Jamar Chase triple crown again. Like, that's just so. For those who don't know, a triple crown is for a receiver would be you led the league in receiving yards, receptions, and touchdowns caught. So Jamar Chase led the league in all three of those, and that just so hard. It's just hard to do, but to repeat that, I mean, that'd just be insane to do that. You put him probably close to Jerry Rice conversations if he repeats it. But I'm just assuming that it's not going to happen again. So that just kind of gives the and it happened last year and you missed the playoffs. So that means it's not going to happen. That means the defense has to play a lot better just so you're where you were last year position wise to at least be at that. So yeah, I mean, their offense has tons of weapons. They're all secured. Higgins, Chase, Burrow. I really like Chase Brown as a running back. He's really good pass catcher, too, in that offense. But, yeah, I mean, their offensive line might be a little worse, too, like you said. So it'll be interesting. Taylor's on the hot seat, too, because of that.
Yes. And I would say if there's any team that the O-line can get worse and it's kind of okay, it's this one, because Joe Burrow has done amazing things with the worst O-lines throughout his career in Cincinnati. I mean, he took one of the worst O-lines to the Super Bowl. So I think that is the one aspect where if they do get worse, it's not the worst thing in the world, because you have Burrow under center and can do a lot of things. And he doesn't look like a very mobile quarterback. He looks more like the traditional Manning Brady type quarterback that is really good in the pocket, which he is. But he does a lot of things on the move, improvising, almost like Patrick Mahomes in a lot of ways. So if the O-line obviously got worse, but I think he can definitely do a lot of a good with a bad O-line.
The only thing I would like to say to that is that last year, I believe, was his first year he was able to play all 17 games. So he is injury prone, unfortunately. So, yes, I agree that if you take injuries out, yes, that offense could still be super productive with a poor offensive line. But if Burrow goes down, this team, I mean, Jake Browning's a capable backup, but he can't lead you to the playoffs if he has to play multiple games.
Right.
So, if Burrow goes down for a season injury, that's game over for the Bengals. Actually, I don't know why I said that so abruptly about Zach Taylor being on the hot seat. That might be true, but this is the same franchise that kept Marvin Lewis around for 16 or 17, 18 years, and he never won a playoff games.
Well, it's probably because
slow decision-making franchise.
Yeah, whoever they'd have to bring in, they'd probably end up having to pay more than they're paying Taylor. So they don't like to cough up the money. But seeing as they were able to re-sign T. Higgins and Jamar Chase back, obviously Joe Burrow forced their hand a bit, the ownership. But we'll see what happens there. Give me your over/under win total for the Bengals. Let's just do this as we go along.
Okay, so are you seeing it at 9.5?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is one I don't feel comfortable with. I'm going to go under and say they win 9. I'm going to say it's going to be nothing. Nothing screams like anything's changed in the offseason. I think they're just going to reach the exact same point they were at last year.
This might be just my hopes, my dreams, but I will say over on the 9.5. I do think they are the second best team in the division. So I think they can at least be a game better defensively, which will put them over that 9.5 line. They don't really, like you said, I don't think Burrow and Chase are going to be able to put up those numbers that they did a second straight year. It's not going to be as good as it was last year, but I do think they're maybe the best duo in the league, and I think they can do enough offensively that if the defense is just a game or two better with Al Golden at DC, I think it could definitely put them over that 9.5. So I'm gonna go over 9.5. It's not plus value, but it is minus 120 for that. Let's go on to this Cleveland Browns team, and where to start. I mean, I've got notes scattered everywhere with this team. Let's just start with the most recent news of the recent draft pick, Quinshon Judkins getting arrested. Yeah,
I shouldn't laugh at that. Should not laugh at domestic violence. Yeah,
right. But it's just the same story over and over again with this team. Obviously, it's just chaos in Cleveland. It seems like every year. Barry, the GM, is definitely on the hot seat. I mean, Jimmy Haslam has probably got him on a very short leash, and knowing that he needed him to get this draft right. Obviously, the Shedeur Sanders situation is weird,
Stefanski's probably on the hot seat too, even though he's
which is
shown himself.
unfortunate.
Yeah,
And
I mean, he'll probably get hired because the fact that
immediately,
I think he might have a winning record if we're being like, he might barely have a winning record with this franchise, which is pretty impressive.
But when you factor in the Judkins getting arrested, Shedeur Sanders getting cited twice for speeding, the Watson contract and the weirdness of that whole situation, he's probably won't even see the field this year with his injury. And you've got this 4-quarterback cluster. You don't know who's going to be starting week 1, and it probably won't even be the same guy that starts week 18. You've got Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders all in there. And the Dylan Gabriel pick was the interesting one for me because I think that's the one that Berry and Stefanski wanted, and that they picked him earlier than they probably should have. But I think they were trying not to pick Sanders in the draft this year, and Haslam forced his hand on them. And so now you've got this interesting mix of characters on this team, and Joe Flacco trying to be the mentor to all of it for all these young guys. It's a tough situation. You mentioned Stefanski. He may be out with another underwhelming season, and that's just a damn shame. He has done the best he can possibly do with absolute garbage, especially at the QB position. And I agree. I think he will get picked up immediately, maybe even another head coaching position, but most definitely an offensive coordinator immediately when he's let go. But I guess my final question in terms of the Cleveland Browns is, does Shedeur see the field this year?
So, I mean, absolutely nobody benefits from a 4-man QB battle because there's not enough reps to share. Like, you're not like, if they're, and they haven't cut any of these guys yet, which makes me think that they're all on. They haven't made any decisions yet, so they're clearly all on the same level. So because or else you can't hold 4 potential starters on your roster. You just can't do that. So yeah, they're all clearly on the same level. They haven't made up their minds. Not enough reps to share, and so last week I was talking about how I did not like the decision of like sitting Drake May for all those weeks, and because like what would he learn by watching Jacoby Brissett hand the ball off multiple times? Like there's not much to learn. This is my one exception to that. What I would do if I was the Browns, because this is their first 6 games of the year are home against Cincinnati, which should be a tough game if Cincinnati shows up, but who knows? It's week 1. But after that, at Baltimore, Green Bay, at Detroit, Minnesota overseas, and then at Pittsburgh. So
yeah, it looks really bad.
you can't throw Gabriel or Sanders into that for the first 6 weeks. I know if they know that they're going to be bad, like we all know they're probably going to be bad, I'd say you roll with Pickett or Flacco those first 6 weeks, and then you hand it off to Gabriel or Sanders and say, okay, now is your chance to show us what you got. The schedule's easier. We're not playing against these super tough defenses. So, show us what you got. Unfortunately for them also is that their supporting cast isn't very good either. You mentioned Judkins, who a promising draft pick. Well, my guess is he'll be suspended for a few games. Jerry Jeudy's a fine wide receiver too. If he's your wide receiver 1, that's a big problem.
Now, I did like the drafting of the tight end from Bowling Green, Harold Fannin Jr. I think he was one of those few guys that didn't transfer out of a small school into one of the Power 4 teams. But yeah, I did like that pickup.
A tight end does have I would say Njoku is one of the better tight ends in the league.
And so you pair him up.
Yeah, and for me, a tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend. If you can just have a guy who just runs efficient 5-yard outs and you can just throw it to him for checkdowns or whatever if nothing's open down the field, that's exactly what a rookie quarterback needs to develop. So yeah, I mean, they do have that going for them, but yeah, when your top running back's getting suspended and no receiver help, it's not. And I mean, it kind of showed. I mean, they had Winston and Watson playing quarterback last year. We didn't mention it. They went 3-14 last year. Ended the year on a 6-game losing streak. The last 4 games of the year, they averaged 6.5 points per game. And for the entire season, they only scored 20 or more 3 times. That just shows you how poor their offense was. And their supporting cast really didn't improve at all other than through the draft. And it's unfortunate because I feel like their defense it's fine. Like it would be if you put that defense on a good team, like if you paired that defense with a good offense, that could be a Super Bowl team. I'm not saying this is a Super Bowl caliber defense, but it's a good enough defense where you can use it to
put this defense on the Bengals.
Yeah, if you put this defense on the Bengals, that would be a Super Bowl contender for sure. But yeah, because you got arguably the best pass rusher in the league and Myles Garrett. You got a decent secondary with Denzel Ward and Newsome. You just drafted a big defensive tackle from Michigan. So, yeah, I think their defense is fine, but it's not good enough to keep them in games when their offense is this bad. And we saw that last year when they went 3-14.
Yeah. For their season win total, I'm seeing it at 5.5. What are you feeling? They went 3-14 last season. And as you mentioned,
I saw it at 4.5.
Tough on the way. You saw 4. Yeah, you might. Yeah. I'm seeing 5.5. I put this at under 5.5. That's a pretty easy pick. That's minus 145 on FanDuel. But what are you feeling on this one?
I see them getting 4 wins, so that would be under 4.5. No, they'll start off bad, but they'll get a couple of good moral wins in the late in the year again on those CBS 1:00 games. Oh, that's another thing on the schedule. They only have 3 games this year that are not at 1:00, which is kind of.
Are they all in the afternoon? Like 3, 4.
Other than their overseas game, yes. The other 2 games are against West Coast teams, I believe. So, yeah, so just.
They get the morning prime time on the international game.
Although right. sometimes as a fan, you do like when your team plays like multiple primetime games, you're like, I just kind of miss the 1:00 window.
Right. I'm not waiting all day to see my team.
Yeah, like, can we just get this over with?
Awesome.
Yeah, poor Browns fans, but yeah, they're used to it at this point, unfortunately.
I mean.